Hello, folks. This is your host, Dr. Graham Taylor. I'm so excited to tell you about the upcoming Triad Mental Health Summit Week, taking place online August 20th through the 22nd. This 3-day event is free to attend and will cover different themes each day: positive change and equality on the 20th, simplifying the pathway to licensure on the 21st, and elevating therapeutic skills on the 22nd. Join us for one day or all three to gain valuable insights and practical knowledge that will help you in your professional growth. Both Charlene Dixon and I will be hosting live interviews, and we'll even have time at the end to field questions from our audience. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Learn more and register today at triadhq.com/TMHS. We look forward to having you there.
Welcome to Behavioral Health Today, a podcast brought to you by the Triad Network. This podcast is designed to share trending topics occurring within the world and our communities and bring them a behavioral and mental health perspective.
Welcome to Behavioral Health Today, a Triad production. I'm your host, Dr. Graham Taylor. My guest today is Murray Hidary. Murray is a multifaceted entrepreneur, tech pioneer, and creative polymath. His entrepreneurial journey began at 22, leveraging his passion for music and composition honed at NYU. Murray is an acclaimed photographer, composer, and musician with a voracious appetite for ongoing learning and adventure. Murray's musical odyssey led to MindTravel, a transformative experience blending contemporary classical music with visual art to evoke introspection and healing. Currently, Murray tours with MindTravel, composes new works, and seeks inspiration through hiking and meditation in scenic landscapes. We're excited to have Murray with us today to discuss enhancing mindfulness and fostering human connection through music. Murray, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Graham. Great to be with you.
Nice to have you here. You know, Murray, as I read about you and learn that you're really out to ignite transformation, to connect the seemingly disparate elements of the world, to live in a constant dance of unfolding the hidden universe. And you have this innate sense that creating networks and platforms for connection amongst people could both elevate productivity and consciousness, with the goal of creating a space for people to have a powerful journey, which is at once provocative and reflective, healing and transcendent. It's pretty cool. You know, when you look back on your life, Murray, what are some of the factors and experiences in your early years that explain this way of being in the world for you?
Yeah. You know, Graham, for me as a child, as a young kid, I think that finding my expression in the world, interacting, connecting, I was a shy kid. And so it was like, how do I relate to others? How do I relate to the world? And at a pretty young age, I was introduced to music at 5 years old. And at a pretty young age, I can have distinct memories, certainly by 7 or 8, where I really would just turn to music, just sit at the piano as a young kid, my legs dangling from the bench, if you can imagine it, and just playing and finding like this really safe place to just express myself, to feel connection. And that was really the beginning of really what is a love affair with music that I've had my whole life, and found my greatest expression through. We call music the language of emotion, where we even say, like, where words leave off, music
That's right.
picks up the baton of expression. Right. And, emotions are never as simple as we might think they are. We might often use one or two words to express kind of our emotional state. Oh, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling joyful, or I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling whatever the emotion is. We might use one or two words to express it, but we know that there's a vast iceberg underneath that word.
Right.
And so words often are not sufficient to really kind of get in there. And so music, being a multidimensional language, offers a very different way to express our emotional state. And I think that's really a key element to why music can so powerfully move us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Music takes us to places that are truly beyond words, transcends something at the deepest of levels and unites us in a really cool way,
Mm.
as well. I know as a composer, you ask yourself one key question. You're saying, well, what does the energy of the universe sound like? And you said you attempt to give that which is hidden a voice, and that abstract sound that lies beyond what we perceive with our senses. And given that music has long been recognized, like what you're saying right now, as a tool for mindfulness and relaxation, how do you contemplate integrating mindfulness practices into these musical journeys?
Yeah. It operates for me at different levels. And that first level is the hidden, as you mentioned, right? The exploration,
Yeah.
the contemplation of the hidden within. That is, what parts of my consciousness are hidden even from me, right? And that's true for all of us, right? There's the
Right.
subconscious, there's the unconscious. So there's parts of us that are operating on autopilot. There
Absolutely.
are beliefs we have, there are all kinds of thoughts we have, there's all kinds of behaviors that we're doing that are just automated. They're
That's the
conditioned,
that's the iceberg analogy. It's a perfect,
right?
actually Freud's analogy of the unconscious. It's perfect.
So how do we get in touch with that, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to just sitting back and seeing it play out in the movie of our lives without much access to it. And so we need to create a practice, and I do call it a practice. It's not a one-time thing, right? It's a practice of reflection, a practice of contemplation, creating some space in order for what's typically hidden beneath the surface to have access to it, and have access to it in a powerful and empowering way, which allows us to play with it, to learn from it, to understand it.
Yeah.
And music can do that because it can really help rise up what is there, what we typically might suppress, right, or repress. But it is in the body, it's in
Yes.
the mind, and music can activate both body and mind in order for us to really feel and access what's there. From a whole spectrum of experiences, from grief that might be recent or that might be decades old. I mean, it's all in there. Trauma that might be profoundly challenging from childhood, or a simple stress trauma that might be from earlier in the day of dealing with traffic. The brain and body don't distinguish much between all those kinds of trauma. It's very similar chemical reactions that are taking place in the body. So we have to create a practice that releases that so that it doesn't stay buried within us.
As you do that, as you practice, you're creating opportunities to practice reflection and contemplation and to access those hidden places. Do you, as a composer, creating different themes in your music that can touch those various areas, whether it's trauma or joy or
Mm.
grief or, ecstasy? Are you composing with those things in mind to be accessed?
Yeah, so much of what I do, the live concerts that I do through
Yeah.
MindTravel, which is kind of the
Yeah.
expression of my music in the world publicly, they're live piano experiences that are actually improvised from first note to last note. Um, I'll then take those recordings from the live concerts and I will turn them into scored compositions for orchestra and other instruments. But the predominant experience that people have, thousands and thousands of people have from city to city, is a live piano experience, typically in nature. So I bring together music, mindfulness, nature,
Mm.
in community. Those are the pillars. Those are the ingredients that I put together for each and every mind travel experience, whether it's on the beach of Santa Monica or
Yeah.
Miami Beach or Central Park in New York. Those are the core elements, right? The healing power of nature. I mean, you just can't get the sense of any better healing or connection than
Yeah.
being in proximity to nature. And then the power of the language of music, and then the intention that I bring with it. And I have a different theme, Graham, for each time we gather. So
Okay.
I might have a theme for joy, or a theme for freedom, or a theme of forgiveness. And so I'll work that in both the music as terms of how I'm conceiving of it, but also in terms of the spoken word that I'll bring in as a layer with the music as well. Kind of like a guided meditation in a sense, but really
Yes.
it's kind of a poetic spoken word narrative about that subject, so that people have their own time in the music to
Yeah.
reflect on the topic, on the theme. But then I offer kind of my thoughts and my reflections on that theme as well for them to contemplate. And hopefully, through the music and the words, it opens up a space that's deeper for them.
Psychoanalytically, we would say that this is a musical free association,
Absolutely.
basically
Absolutely.
where you're just, verbally, in this case, you're musically expressing these things. And just out of curiosity, I would, as you improvise, have you ever done your own self-study around watching to see what improvisationally comes out as almost kind of a Rorschach ink blot, or kind of a
Totally. Yeah.
projection of your own unconscious below the surface? You ever notice that?
Totally. And that is the practice for me. Like when I get
Yeah.
up on stage, when I sit at the piano, it's not, I don't even view it, Graham, as a performance. It's not
Yeah.
entertainment for me. It's
Right. Right.
it it's really a practice that I'm leading it. I'm kind
Yeah.
of ducking the train, so to speak, but we're all on the train.
Yeah.
So um to me, it's about how do I get out of my own way as quickly as possible. And with that first note, it's kind of like the first note to me is like the bell at the beginning of a meditation class,
Right. Right.
or the church bell that we might hear, right? And that the intention behind all of those has always been historically to remind people of the present moment,
Yeah.
right? The church bell rings, and it's like, okay, like it's time to be here, right?
Yes.
Same thing with the meditation bell at the beginning of a meditation class. And so the first note for me operates in the same way. It's the same function. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's listen to this note. And by listening, that is the quickest way into the present moment.
I
Uh,
love that.
and then it's about going into that flow state and just getting out of my own way and just using the music in a very severe listening. Like it's a very deep and severe listening, a very acute listening to the music, so that I stay with it, kind of like a surfer on a wave. Uh,
Yes.
and by doing that, I can get into the subconscious and away from the surface level, noise of the mind. And that's the practice for me. And it turns out you don't have to be the one playing to achieve that flow state. You can be listening, and that attention can actually open up a timeless experience for the audience as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. In order to provide that experience for those that are listening, we're going to get into mind travel here in just a second, but in order to give folks that experience, you're also giving yourself an experience. How do you prepare? Well, what do you do to come into those moments yourself beforehand?
I've been asked that question at concerts, because we always do a Q&A at the end where I let people come up to the mic
Oh,
and
nice.
questions and share. And people are like, what's going on for you?
Right.
And I kind of liken it to, in some ways, to an athlete. How does an athlete
Exactly.
prepare for the game? Well, certainly, if you're a basketball player, you're throwing a lot of, you're shooting a lot of free throws. If you're a tennis player, you're working on your forehand and your backhand. But a
Right.
lot of what athletes do is actually in the gym. It's the mobility, the agility training, the strength training, the flexibility training, right? All those skills that an athlete needs so that they could improvise on the court.
That's
They
right.
don't know exactly what they're going to need to do, right? But they know the skills they need so that whatever they need to do, they can execute it.
That's
And
that zone that people oftentimes talk about. They can get
right,
into and just watch and see what happens.
that's right. And you have to have certain skills in order
Yeah.
to be able to effortlessly execute that. And it's the
Yeah.
same with the piano. Because I'm improvising, I'm not playing a memorized sequence of notes or melodies or harmonies. So I need to have the skills. And so I spend hours and hours and hours a week
Yeah.
working on exercises that's the equivalent of going to the gym for a
That's
pianist.
right.
right? So it's all these exercises and strength training and all that. And also, like physically, like I am working on my body so that I'm as open and relaxed as possible at the piano. So I'm not distracted by anything physically or mentally. So it's about using meditation. It's about using physical training. I cold plunge every day.
Brilliant.
I mean, it has been a wonder to kind of really help my stress levels and help
Yeah.
my clarity. Infrared sauna, like all these things, swimming in the ocean, right? These are all practices to get the body and the mind ready for clarity when I'm at the piano.
We'll be right back after word from our sponsor.
Americans are increasingly concerned about mental health, with nearly 9 in 10 voters seeing it as a crisis. Mental Health First Aid provides crucial training to identify, understand, and respond to mental health and substance use challenges. Gain the skills and confidence to offer life-saving assistance. We offer courses for individuals, groups, and organizations of all sizes, including specialized training for veterans, law enforcement, EMS, and educators. Visit mentalhealthfirstaid.org or email hello@mentalhealthfirstaid.org to schedule your training and make a difference in your community.
I so appreciate that, because what you're saying is the more, well, in that you work so intently on preparing for and coming into these times, what a benefit to other people. What you're allowing them to, is kind of the pebble in the pond. You're benefiting from yourself, but the concentric experiences people get to have from this are so noteworthy because of your discipline, your commitment to them to say, I'm going to be my best self in these moments for you, and here's all that goes into it. I'd love to kind of shift a little bit and just take us into mind travel and walk us through what this is and your creation of it. I want to talk about the different experiences that people can have, but walk us through just kind of a general idea of it first, would you?
Absolutely. We talked a little earlier, Graham, about the hidden. We talked
Yeah.
about the hidden within us, right, in terms of our subconscious, but there's also a hidden universe out there as well,
That's right.
right? And, over the years, over the millennia, we've discovered some of that. For instance, most of humanity has never known about electromagnetism, right, until that was discovered. X-rays. All these technologies, radio frequencies, all of these have been hidden from humanity for most of humanity's existence until very recently, comparatively. And there's so much more, right? We know, physicists are now exploring dark matter, dark energy. We barely know what that is. So there are so many layers to the hidden universe. And for me, music is a very powerful language to explore that. Now, why do I say that? Because the universe we know is vibrational, right? It's an infinite spectrum of frequencies and vibrations. Electromagnetism is simply frequencies, right? We can see light. That's a very limited part of the electromagnetic spectrum, but there's infrared light that we can't see, but we can detect with instruments we make. And there's all kinds of frequencies that we're not even aware of. So music is frequency. It's vibration. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So I see the whole universe as music. You see,
Mhm.
just because we can hear a certain range of frequencies from roughly 20 hertz on the bass end to about 20,000 hertz on the high end, but that's nothing compared to what's out there. So using music, we can get into this vibrational relationship with the whole universe, and that to me is the language to communicate, with the universe in that way. And then thoughts, emotions, right? These are all parts of how all that communication is happening. So, for me, when I sit at the piano, it truly is, it's exploratory, right? In terms of that hidden universe that escapes our reality, quote unquote, in a day to day. But it's also in a very real sense, devotional, if I can use that word.
That's a great word.
It's a devotional practice. So
Wonderful word.
I sit there and I'm in nature. I'm at the ocean, which to me is, the altar of the universe. And the ocean is one of the most profound metaphors for everything. If you're looking for any wisdom in
Yeah.
life for our human experience, we just turn to the ocean. It's all right there. The answers are always there. And so by having the piano literally 20 feet from the ocean with up to 1,000 of us gathering on the sand with, your beach towel, your beach chair, I put headphones on every participant, Graham, so that the sound experience is intimate,
I love that.
direct, and personal.
Mm.
It's like I'm playing just for you.
Mm.
Now you're having an immediate sound experience. The music embodies the panoply of human emotion, the ups, the downs, right? It's not just about, oh, let me play some pretty music that's going to make you feel good for an hour. And then you're back where you were, right? This is not that. This is provocative. It's music that will push you emotionally. It will go within and it'll stir things up. And, you'll see at pretty much every mind travel, people getting emotional. There'll be
You
people.
want them to leave differently than when they came in. You want something to have
Right.
shifted and changed.
That's right. And
Yeah.
and the combination of these ingredients, right, in terms of the music, the spoken word, nature, community, it's not just that you're doing it alone, right? If you were just sitting there alone, I don't think it would be as profound an experience, right? As if you look around and you're like, I'm having my unique individual
Yes.
moment, right? And because I have the headphones on, I might be 100 feet off with my feet in the water, or I might be lying down in the middle of the group. All right, I could be anywhere. I could walk around. I could stand on my head. I could dance. I could move. Whatever it is you want to express, you can do that. And then you look around and you see everyone doing that in their own way. And you're like, this is the human condition. We're each unique individuals that will never be replicated again. Like each of us, right? There'll never be someone exactly like you ever again. There never was anyone like you, Graham. And there'll never be anyone like me or anyone listening. You are a unique expression of the universe. And yet, we all are going through the same arc, the same journey of the human condition. And once we get those two can live side by side, we embrace both the individual and the collective as one. In ancient traditions, like in Vedic traditions, they call that the Brahman and the Atman, right? And that's what is meant by this. But it's one thing to know it intellectually.
Yeah.
It's a very different thing to get it in an embodied, experiential way. Exactly.
Yeah. I think that experiential piece is so profound. I love the idea of blending and bringing together the uniqueness of each one of us. And we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and we're just so unique in who we are. No one is like us, from our fingerprints to our cellular composition, all of those things. And yet there's a universality that's shared among us as well. And how you hold both of those together is a wonderful thing. I know that you have, it's pretty cool actually. I know you have various experiences that folks, can go through in this holistic, immersive musical experience, from underwater to a silent walking to your signature events. Walk us through the various experiences that you offer with MindTravel, Murray.
Absolutely. So there's three core experiences. The signature experience is what I just described, gathering at the beach or in a beautiful park like Central Park in New York. And everyone gets those headphones.
Right.
I'll have a piano there and we go on a journey. It's about, anywhere from an hour, hour and a half in length. And then afterwards, I open the microphone up, Graham. People can come up and they can share their story, right? Their particular story of whatever they're going through.
May I ask us a little bit about that just real quick? We're going to go on and talk about the other experiences, but give me a sense, Murray, of what people are sharing after they listen. What are you hearing from the signature one particularly?
Yeah, the experience, my intention going into it is always to meet people wherever they're at, right? To have the music meet them where they are at, whatever that happens to be. And so when they get up at the microphone, right, they're sharing that journey, that story, right? I'll hear stories about people going through profound grief. I'll hear stories from, I had one gentleman get up. He's probably around 30 years old. He told me he just retired from special forces for the Army. And I mean, this is a big, strong 6'4" guy, and he gets up there and he says, what I've seen, what I've done, this is the first time I've ever been able to really sit with it.
Oh
And
my.
and he starts, tearing up and
Sure.
crying at the microphone. This huge, strong guy that is the protector, right?
Yeah.
And he was able to be vulnerable and heal in that moment. And he thanked me for that at the microphone. And everyone just hearing that, right? It's not just healing for that individual, but it's healing for everyone, right? Because we see our story in the story of another.
You bet.
And then you have kids who get up. I can't tell you,
Is that right?
that's my favorite part. You'll have families come, an 8-year-old kid, 10, 12, they'll get up, they'll come up to the microphone, and they're the most authentic, the most earnest. And they'll just tell me, that was the best concert I've ever been to.
Is that right?
You like the music. It made me feel peaceful. A kid telling you it made them feel peaceful, right? We take for granted the experience of a child. We think, you're a child. What are you going through? You have your food, your bills are paid, you have your bed, you have your shelter. What do you need? But kids are going through stress, right? Particularly in a post-pandemic experience, right? What they went through in the pandemic in terms of schooling and social and all that upheaval they experienced in their lives. They're still dealing with that.
You bet.
And so, they have their own stress, their own anxieties, not to mention the social anxieties dealing with, social media and everything that they're having to contend with. So that all shows up,
So cool.
then they'll come with their families and they'll tell their mom or their dad who they're with, how much they love them and thank you for bringing them to this. And
so it just opens up kind of this heart. Yeah.
It does. And so, to me, that's in some ways the most important part of it, because you really get the human story and the human connection there.
That's so good.
Really
That's so good. Tell me about the underwater experience.
Yeah. So that's the piano at the beach or park. And then, I'm always looking to find deeper ways of connecting people. So I had the idea for the floating underwater experience.
Yeah.
And there I do it in a heated, superheated saltwater pool. And I put speakers. These are specially made custom speakers that I had designed for playing music in water, underwater. Wow. And then I have everyone floating weightless at the surface with these pool noodles that allow them to be totally weightless. And I then guide a relaxation and transcending meditation. And then I play the piano, and when you hear it underwater, it's like you've never heard sound before,
Is that right?
Because sound, it transmits more powerfully, faster in water, because water is a denser medium than air. Right. And sound is a mechanical wave, right? So it needs to have molecules bumping into each other. That's what's happening with the energy of a mechanical wave. So it actually transmits better in water than air. It's the reason why whales can communicate 600 miles to their families, right? Where on land, it would dissipate after a shorter distance. So that's a very powerful experience. And in particular, that one is about the dissolution of the physical form. Because when you're floating in water that's the same temperature as your skin, you actually cannot tell where your body ends and the water begins. And so there's a very powerful consciousness expansion that's available when you have a dissolution of the feeling of your body, right? And so that's what we achieve in that experience. And now you're just pure consciousness. You're just pure awareness. You're just mind without the burden of the physical form, because you're weightless. You don't feel gravity. And you don't feel the edges of the boundary of your skin, because the water, you have water within you, right? Sure. So we're mostly water within us, and you have water around you at the same temperature. And so suddenly your nerve endings they're kind of confused in a way. They're like, oh, I don't feel any differential. Yeah. And therefore you stop feeling your hands.
So there's no distractions. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And now you're just mind. You're
That's
just
awesome.
pure consciousness experiencing, and that's quite powerful. The walking one is the final one, and that's bringing these sensibilities, Graham, out into the world, right?
Okay.
You're actually walking or hiking for several miles, for the better part of an hour. And now you're bringing that sense of consciousness into the world as it occurs for you.
Mm.
And what we do is we put the headphones on and I play music and I do the narration and
Oh,
I
okay.
narrate a journey that is about connecting with the world around us. And after you do that walk, you cannot look at the world in the same way. It really is quite something, because it's not enough to just do a meditation practice, whatever it is, whether it's a quiet, silent meditation practice, mantra-based, breath-based, breathing-based, whatever it is. It's not enough to just achieve that sense of peace and presence on your mat at home. What about the rest of the day, right? After that 15, 20 minutes, what about the other hours of the day where you're out in the world and you're dealing with the stress and anxieties of life?
Mm.
How do you maintain that equanimity, that stillness?
Yeah.
So you have to practice that. And the
Yes.
walking meditation is all about that, is bringing that sense of presence and attention and awareness and calm and stillness out into the world.
Well, some great experiences people get to benefit from. As I'm listening to you and thinking about where you may go, I'm reminded that you're quite the Renaissance man. Not sure if if folks go on your website to learn, but you've had considerable success in life, and you've got this rich repository from which to draw to do all the things that you're doing, including, your company with Earthwebs. It was a groundbreaking IPO in 1998. It was the third largest single day share in the NASDAQ history of all time. And you performed live, on iconic venues like Lincoln Center and New York Center, Sony Hall in New York, the Ace Center in Los Angeles. And you even performed in front of the pyramids in Egypt. How cool is that? That must have been incredible.
It was.
And you even performed in Antarctica as well. Some phenomenal things you've done. You wrote in your first symphony and it performed it in St. Petersburg, Russia. You've studied Zazen and the moving meditation with the Japanese Zen flute, and all of these things you bring, including your preparation that you described to us, just the way you live your life and what you bring so that people get the best experience that they could possibly have from you. What a commitment that you bring to the experience that people have. And I really admire and very much respect that. And as you look down the road here, Murray, what do you see evolving next with MindTravel, and where would you like to see it be going?
And thank you for mentioning, those kind of chapters of life. To me, it's not about retreating from the world to find that sense of peace. It's not about, I don't think anymore it's about the monk living in the cave,
No,
the mountains.
no.
No, it's about how do we deeply engage with the world so that we can actually contribute, right? We can be in contribution. We can be in service for one another, each of us serving one another with our unique gifts. So the business experience I had when I was, in my 20s and 30s, that experience enables me to relate to people that are building their projects, that are
Yes.
working on their dreams, right? And then also just from an emotional point of view, from a healing point of view, I've unfortunately had the experience of dealing with profound grief. When I was in my mid 30s, the untimely death of my little sister in an accident, and that actually prompted the creation of MindTravel, because I used music to heal through that grief and PTSD that associated with it, because I was present at the accident. So it was, very loaded, and it took something very intense to work through that grief. But coming through the other side of that, it's like, okay, how can I be of service now in whatever somebody needs to help them achieve their dream, to help them work through their grief,
Yes.
in whatever way. And so that to me is the purpose of what I do now and how I could be of service. And it turns out, the saying is true. If you want to be happy, make other people happy.
That's right.
If you want to feel joy, bring joy to others.
You bet.
And I've experienced the ups and downs of life in very extreme ways. And so to me, it's about connecting with others and creating beauty because I've seen the ugliest of things. It's about creating a sense of wonder. It's about creating connection because I felt the pains of disconnection, right? And so I think we're all, each of us, motivated in many ways by what we've lacked in life or what we wished or our wounds from younger. And so we now bring forth, right, an experience for others so they don't have to experience that or they can heal from that.
Yeah, I really like that. I think there's nothing more rewarding, more important that we could possibly do than follow the message you just said right there about engaging with the world by making a contribution through service. What a wonderful way to be living our lives. And if we're all doing this with the kind of heart that you're describing, my goodness, what kind of change, can be experienced. Holding that for a second and within the context of music, how about some maybe advice as we begin to kind of turn a corner here and kind of come to close up our show? But with that heart that you're describing through contribution and service and loving on one another in very meaningful ways, give some advice or maybe a guidance for those maybe kind of getting started in their own musical mindfulness journey. And what new appreciation for music might you encourage them to have?
We often might think of music, too superficially.
Yes.
Uh, since we hear, and it's no one's fault, right? We experience music during most days in the background, right? Where we go to the mall and there's music playing while we're shopping. We turn the radio on and there's music flooding the radio stations or from our phones. So music is often thought about as background or entertainment for an escape, right?
Yes.
And we'll go to a show and just to escape our troubles. Maybe there's an opportunity, like we're saying here, to use music more intentionally, right? To say, no, I actually don't want to escape my problems. I want to confront my problems
Love that.
because then I'll be done with them. I will heal from them. I will be able to solve that in new and creative ways because that answer will emerge in the music, in the experience, right? That's how the brain actually works. You create space for creativity to bubble up. So instead of filling our calendars with one distraction after another, right? Instead of scrolling all day long to distract ourselves, what if we actually cleared the calendar, made space, and just listened to whatever's there? Now, certain things become more helpful than others in terms of achieving that. And the music I create is really designed, it's engineered for exactly this intention, for this purpose. So using music for healing, for creativity, for growth, that really is what's available through the power of music.
Really well put. Well, Murray, it's been great to have you with us today. I'd love for our listeners to be able to follow up after our show to learn more about you, your music, all that you're doing, and MindTravel events. How can they do so?
Well, the easiest way is to follow me on Instagram. It's at Murray Hidary and or mindtravel.com on the website. We have our calendar and we do so many in-person concerts. I do now roughly, Graham, about 100 concerts a year in different
Yeah, I was
cities.
reading that. That's awesome.
So please do find us in any of those locations. And if you're somewhere where for some reason we're not able to get to, if you're listening and we're not coming to that city, you can join us virtually twice a month. I bring this experience virtually to people all over the world. We do the walking experience virtually, so you can walk in your own neighborhood, your own beach,
Right.
park. And I bring the concert from my living room to yours. So I invite you to get comfortable on your couch, put some headphones on,
That's awesome.
and enjoy the journey with me.
That's good, man. Well, hey, Murray, it's been great to meet you today. It's been great to have you on the show. What a cool life you're living, and what a great contribution you're making to lives through music. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Graham.
Also want to thank you, our listeners, for stopping by and joining Murray and me today. We always love having you with us. Regarding our episode today, I want to remind you that it and its resources and all of our other podcasts can be found on our webpage at triadhq.com/BHT. Thanks again for being with us on the show. And we'll look forward to having you back with us next time on Behavioral Health Today.
We appreciate all the support from our community, and if you like our show, one of the best ways you can support it is by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review. Behavioral Health Today is a podcast part of the Triad Behavioral Health Network, all rights reserved.